This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
This is Is the Dream Really Dead? Leader Fan Radio Network.
Sorry, KFAN.
And KFAN.com. 1 minute, 54 seconds past the hour of 3 o'clock. That is Central Daylight Saving Time. By the way, it's not savings, but Blakemore, it's saving. Singular. On what the hell happened to the Snownami Wednesday afternoon here in the Twin Cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul. My name is Dan Barreiro. I host the program. Brett Blakemore is in that chair, and I think you'll be in that chair each of the next 3 shows, correct?
That is correct. I'll be here.
Guardsy is tracking Golden Gopher women's basketball. And then I believe he said he had a funeral, unfortunately, to go to on Friday. So he is out for the rest of the week. We trust that you will still hang with us. We certainly hope that you indeed will. I'll give you details on a very good guest lineup, and I will remind folks they can reach us via the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line at their leisure, unless they've been blocked, at 646-86. And actually, technically, you can still send it. That's the beauty of it. It doesn't block you from sending it. It might block us from seeing it, but that's another story for another day. I think the Snownami didn't evaporate. It just went way south of us, correct? Did I see a forecast, I don't know if it's paid off this way, of up to 10 inches of snow in Rochester? I thought it was in that range. Now, maybe that changed too, but I know there were some areas, someplace in Kansas is this even meteorologically possible? Got 3 inches of snow in like 20 minutes. Can you get 3 inches of snow in 20 minutes?
Well,
or was it 9 inches of snow in 60 minutes? I can't remember what it was. It was some, in terms of the pace of the snow, it's something I had never heard of before.
I just Googled Rochester forecast. Mm-hmm. There's a blizzard warning for that county.
Right now?
Yeah, until 7 o'clock tonight. Heavy snow, strong winds continue to impact travel.
Close circuit to the knocker, thoughts and prayers. That's all we can say, right? I hope he's doing okay. Of course, being the knocker, he's probably on some worldwide junket right now anyway. Hard to say, but we'll find out, perhaps.
I have to make this joke. How far south is Apple Valley? Is it far enough south? Yeah.
It's far enough in our case. That is indeed for sure. The dream. I know some of you would call it a nightmare. Has it died? The same media jackals who have for quite some time said that the interest the Vikings had in Aaron Rodgers was real, that the deliberations were indeed taking place, are now telling us that the deliberations are over and that the Minnesota Vikings are returning to the straight and narrow path of handing the keys to the kid quarterback, J.J. McCarthy. I have no reason not to believe them. I think there are a number of folks out there who are taking that reportage as proof that all of this was an invention, that all of this was utterly and completely embroidered from the beginning. I don't believe that. I don't believe that for a minute. I liked the way our guy Johnny Athletic put it. Let me see if I can get the exact. I like to be accurate and precise. Here's what he tweeted about 5 hours ago. Here's how I see the Vikings quarterback saga. They have a roster they believe can make the Super Bowl. JJ is still very young. Rodgers is intriguing with his talent and his experience, and a lot of mess as well. JJ should view this spring/summer as time to buckle down and show he's ready. Some Vikings fans may not want to hear it, but the conversations on Rodgers in the building have been real. There is confidence in McCarthy, but Vikings have seriously considered another guy at his position, albeit a Hall of Famer. It's go time, JJ. I think that's very nicely encapsulated. And what's interesting about, I think it was Tommy Pelissero who broke it. And if you read his tweet, because he's pretty precise, What he said was the Vikings are not interested. In fact, you know what? Maybe I should just, again, for the sake of accuracy, let me find his X handle and offer it up exactly as he wrote it then. I'm going to have to scroll down a bit because he tweets a lot, obviously. He's in the reporting business, right? This is what he does. Hold on. Vikings have rejected. Here's the key sentence for me. Well, a couple. Vikings have rejected multiple trade calls on J.J. McCarthy, telling other teams they're moving forward with him as their quarterback, sources say. The team plans to add a veteran, but they're not pursuing Aaron Rodgers at this time. At this time. Now, he's, like I said, .com Tom is precise. He chooses his words carefully. So I don't know what that means. I think it actually does mean it's something that might be revisited at a later date if there's any availability for Aaron Rodgers. The presumption is Rodgers wants to play, and that even if it's consolation prize, he's going to take what he thinks. He's going to choose the best opportunity to win games. And we all assume that's going to be Pittsburgh. I don't know if that's true, but that's the assumption. He doesn't seem to have a lot of choices at this point. It sounds like it's either the Giants or the Steelers. I don't think Tennessee's in the mix. I don't even know if there'd be any reason why he'd want to go to Tennessee. But when I say the at this time caught my eye, it would seem to indicate, well, maybe at a later time it changes. But again, if Rodgers signs with somebody else, that becomes moot. So that might be the Vikings' way of saying, yeah, in the future, maybe if A-Rod signs with nobody, says he's done, we hit minicamp, and our young phenom takes a couple of steps backward. Either he doesn't look really good physically or in any other way, then who knows where we go from here. Now, it is assumed in the interim the Vikings will sign a veteran backup quarterback. There's even one of the reporters suggested, it might have even been .com Tom again, that the Vikings would even be willing to consider trading for the backup quarterback. I don't know if they have somebody specific in mind there. But bottom line is, the dream for now apparently has died. I think I'm in the minority, but I don't even know anymore. I'm let down. I feel let down. Not because I felt that I was lied to about the interest all along. I, like a lot of the reporters covering this thing, said I think it was less than 50-50 would end up here. But I, as most of you know, fully embraced all of the circus and all of the nonsense it might bring with us. And I think part of the reason the Vikings entertained it was what we said. Now they might be fooling themselves about having Super Bowl talent, but if that's what they believe, I still don't think it's outlandish that they thought, yeah, we love McCarthy, but how often does a rookie quarterback, or I shouldn't say rookie, second year, but in his first year of performing, take a team to a Super Bowl? It's never happened. So then you say, well, might we want to push the clock back a little bit, one more year? Because this is an interesting proposition that might be offered up to us. And if we think we can capture lightning in a bottle with a first ballot Hall of Famer who hasn't been very good lately, we got to talk about it. We got to consider it and maybe even come to the conclusion that that's our best chance to get to the bowl. You and I talked about this the other day in 2025. But I didn't want to run from it now that it looks as if in the short run, at the very least, there is no more there, that the people who were reporting previously that the Vikings were considering it, that they have sent out, obviously, signals to those same folks, the behind-the-scenes, off-the-record way it's done, to say it was a nice run, but the flirtation is over, at least for now. So, we'll see. I'm guessing most of our listeners are delighted. And part of what I think they're missing isn't that they're being unfair or unkind to Rodgers' regression most recently, but because, well, I call it historically the backup quarterback syndrome. And the backup quarterback syndrome, as it is played out in this town, has forever been, and I think other towns too, is if the starter is struggling at all, you're clamoring for the backup to come in. And why is that? Because the backup quarterback, presumably, you've never seen throw an interception. You've never seen a single one of his flaws. So you project only the best that you think in just watching him, you believe he has to offer. And I think this applies to JJ too. We've seen, what have we seen? We saw him a little bit in spring training, or I shouldn't say spring training, in training camp. And in a preseason game, he threw one interception and then recovered nicely from that and had some good throws. But it's human nature to go, yeah, he's perfect. I've never seen him make a single mistake. And until you do, you think, let's go. Let's get it going with JJ. No reason to think he can't be the best quarterback in the league this year. And what I think we're likely to find out is it's going to be the journey's going to be a little bit more complicated and difficult than that. Let's try to stay on schedule. We'll stay with this. I'll give you the guest lineup when we come back. We have a minimum of 2 guests today. We might be adding a third to respond to breaking Feeding Our Future trial news. So we'll give you details on all of that as we continue here in the Fan.
Join the Minnesota Wild for Mental Health Awareness Night tonight. Get your special ticket pack for an unforgettable game against Seattle, a pregame event with speaker Mark Wick, support a great cause. A portion of each ticket sold goes to the Ranch Teammates for Life nonprofit. Don't miss out. Make a difference and cheer on the Wild. Full details, KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
I think the prudent approach regarding the A-Raj developments that seem to drop this morning is rule nothing out. Nothing. Until, at the very least, the Vikings spend some cash or capital on a bridge backup quarterback. Because until they do that, anything could happen. And I also would say, in an odd manner, leaking what they leaked to the principal Jackals does take the pressure off. So to a certain extent, then there's less, daily speculation about it. And maybe that's the more organic way for whatever still might develop to indeed take place. I think that's kind of where we are with this thing. And as I mentioned, I think for most of the listeners, it's a sigh of relief. And it's a defensible position because we've talked about the gamble that's involved with Rodgers. But I'll say again, in fact, I got a text right away from somebody after the last segment going, I really liked what I saw from JJ in that preseason game. And I'm saying, I rest my case. JJ McCarthy has a chance to be really good, but he's done nothing to this point. He hasn't had a chance to do anything. It's not his fault. But when you play the projection game, you think of not a single wart on J.J. McCarthy's game. I'm going to guess there might be one or two. Because if not, he probably would have been the consensus number 1 pick. We've seen the warts on Aaron Rodgers. It's backup quarterback syndrome writ large in this case. And we'll see exactly where it goes. I absolutely was intrigued and endorsed the Vikings' decision to make McCarthy, to get him, to make him a priority. I like his chances. But I think there's a whole lot of projecting that's going on in the meantime. So that's where we're at with it for now. But the next step, I think the intriguing step moving forward is who do the Vikings end up with at the position? They definitely want a veteran QB. And as Seifert said yesterday, they probably want one if there's one you can get that gives them a chance to compete more than the average backup quarterback can, given all the money they've spent, all the resources they've devoted in this offseason to improving themselves at some very key areas. Now, I don't even know if that's realistic. How often can you really do that? You could say, well, they did it last year. They did it with Sam Darnold, and it worked out better than they could have hoped. They probably thought Daniel Jones represented that best hope if they were going to go that more conservative route, but he left. Right? He went logically to a place where there's a better chance he's going to be able to play or compete. And maybe I'm guessing the Colts gave him more money. I think the Colts, he ended up getting like 14, 15 million. And then there's, I believe, a bunch of incentives that are entering into that story as well. I mentioned right before the break, then I'll get to a few texts on this subject. The guest lineup today. Kessler is the Wednesday regular. He will join us in studio at about 5:30, and he'll file a live report on his other duties today. Today, he did what I was doing a year ago at this time. He was doing, I think it was a Facebook Live kind of a thing, where he was broadcasting from the Minnesota Broadcasters Hall of Fame Pavic Museum, announcing the Minnesota Broadcasters Hall of Fame class of 2025. That was, I believe, at 11 a.m. And in that very distinguished class, our guy Lou Nanny, is a member of the class of 2025. I think this is the 11th or 12th Hall of Fame that Louis has been named to. This might be the first broadcasting Hall of Fame he's been named to. I was honored to be, I'd received a request to file a testimonial as the deliberations are about to begin by whoever votes on this sort of thing, or the board that makes the ultimate decision, to write a testimonial on his behalf. I was delighted to do so. And I don't think his nomination needed any help, frankly. I think his record, especially, I mean, to me, I built the whole thing around, obviously, the hockey tournament. I mean, there's a million other things with Louis when it comes to broadcasting. But to me, it's real simple. I don't even think you need any of the rest of it. If your name becomes synonymous with the most treasured sports event in a state, then you're a broadcasting legend right there. I mean, I don't think you need a thing else. In any case, congratulations to our guy Luigi. We're very proud, very pleased that he's in that class. And Kessler will tell us about his experience. I'm guessing he'll say he did a lot better announcing the class than I did a year ago, and he's probably right. In addition, today, and I had not held out much hope, but he comes through for us so many times, and he has so many times over the decades he's been on this show. But there's no reporter, writer more in demand today in the entire world than Gerald Posner. And that's for the obvious reason that allegedly, well, not allegedly, or more Kennedy assassination files that were released. Anything of substance, I don't know. But there's been a lot of hubbub and tumult and conversation about it. And in fact, Gerald's going to join us at 4:30 Central Time, 5:30 his time, to talk precisely about what he has learned. I know he's a bit angry about a couple things, including yesterday there were some online accusations filed suggesting that the one person you shouldn't and can't believe is Posner, because basically suggesting that he's a CIA stooge, and he has basically been carrying water of various organizations forever and ever. And the beauty, of course, of the internet is you can throw out that kind of charge. It sounds cool. It sounds, whoa, sensational, without offering any sort of substance to it. And it's not difficult to see that the people who tend to do that are people who they see boogeymen everywhere. And that doesn't mean that boogeymen do not exist, but they literally see them around every bush. There is not a conspiracy theory that they're not aroused by. So I'm sure we'll talk about that. We'll talk about what he has seen through the files that have just been released, and we'll maybe get to a couple of other subjects with him. That is at 4:30 today. Now, we also, I hope, I should check if he's trying to reach out to me right now. We're going to have KARE 11's Lou Raguse on. Raguse is covering the latest Feeding Our Future sentences, the jury reaching a verdict in the two most recent, well, actually it's the trial involving I don't know if these are the final two defendants, but definitely, I think some of the biggest names, including Amy Bach, and we'll obviously be discussing those verdicts, his reaction to them. There were a couple developments in the case yesterday that was pretty fascinating as well, that no doubt we will attempt to get to. He's been very good with us on this case, especially lately. And Bach and Salim Saeed both were found guilty on all counts in the latest Feeding Our Future fraud trial. They only deliberated, what makes this interesting, they had deliberated about 5 hours, which would indicate either that the prosecutors did a very good job advancing their case and arguing it, or they didn't need to. 5 weeks of testimony, 30 witnesses, and a very, very swift decision. Bach guilty of 7 crimes, Saeed guilty of 21 crimes as well. I do believe that the prosecution asked that they both be immediately taken into custody, because I do not think they have spent any time in the Hoosgow up until now. And we'll get into all of that. I hope at some point, Lou's going to be very busy on KARE 11, but I'm hoping at some point that works for us and him, we can pop him on for 5 or 6 minutes as well. So that's our plan. That is indeed our guest lineup. I've got a lot of other controversial stories to get to, including cheating in a sport in which I didn't even know you could possibly cheat. We're going to get to that next here in the Fan.
If you want to chime in what's happening with your favorite KFAN shows, you can make your voice heard on the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line. Just let us know what you have to say by texting your message to 64686. That is 64686. Standard text message and data rate supply.
Everybody's host. Still you need somewhere you can hide.
Yeah, Red Blakemore makes a decent point that if we were to name the Snownomi, and we're not going to because it didn't really hit us, it could well be Snownomi A-Raj. Much promised and very little delivered in terms of the rampant speculation, the possibility of him coming here.
I felt like I've heard about this Snownomi for weeks.
Yeah,
here it comes.
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly. Well, then somebody told me there's another one. Well, maybe not a Snownomi, but another snowfall tentatively slated for Sunday. But I'm now at this point I'm going to go back to not believing any of them until they actually arrive.
So what you're saying is the interest in snowfall is dead for now.
For now. Very much like A-Raj again. Rosemount guy here. I can't believe that there isn't any steam with bringing in Flacco. He seems to be the perfect fit for the direction the Vikings are looking to go. Plus, we know that if his wife were to go into labor and he would choose to play or hold the clipboard and back up JJ. Are you kidding me? Posner and Kessler in Feeding Our Future? Dang, too bad I'm out delivering for 3 hours. Delivering goods for 3 hours to get, I guess, not able to get popcorn and hit the Barca. This is going to be great. I listen while walking. That's John, the mail carrier. John, I didn't completely maybe this was a dictated text. That does happen from time to time. And if I mangled it, I apologize. Is this the chess anal bead cheating scandal again? No. What I teased before the break is not. This one's not that sordid, but utterly fascinates me. Because, again, this is a sport in which, I guess I was naive to think that there was a sport in which you can't cheat, human nature being what it is. But this one, I'm going to need some help from the audience on it for sure. My guess is the sticking point with A-Raj was desire for a 2-year contract. The Vikings wanting him for 1 year guaranteed. That's possible. Money could have something to do with it. There's no question about that. Dan, well, I totally agree that JJ has done nothing in the league yet. Our quarterback whisperer, KOC, has seen him for a year. I'm trusting him right now. And that is what is getting my hopes up. Hey, Rubba, remember Gino Torretta won preseason series against KC, and Roger Hedrick was ordering a bust for the Hall. It's the greatest example of the very point we were discussing earlier. I got to figure out who the hell that is. That's 214 area code. Well, that's Dallas.
That is Dallas. Yeah.
And that's I think I know who this is. But I'm not sure. I think it may well be a former KFAN programming director.
No.
From way, way back. Yeah. I'll have to find out. I'm going to have to work on that. I don't know if he wants to be outed quite yet. Yeah, that's it's dated, but a good reference. Gino Torretta, standout. Did he win the Heisman? Double check if Gino won the Heisman. He was a terrific college quarterback at the University of Miami, I think. And we got him. And he had it was either third or fourth quarter.
He did win the Heisman in 92.
92, okay. So he comes in here, and against the third or fourth string, he has one really good third quarter or fourth quarter. And people, in fact, I think my newspaper at the time even did a poll. And Torretta won it overwhelmingly as who should be the starting quarterback for the Vikings once the season begins. And Gino Torretta's pro career never took off. But because you saw what you saw, because of the pedigree, and because you didn't see any of the warts, because he really wasn't asked to do anything under duress against first stringers, you come away thinking he's wart free. He's got no blemishes on him, and that's sort of the way we end up doing this. Now, J.J. McCarthy is a much better pro prospect than Gino Torretta, no question. I'm not doing that comparison, but it is a good callback. It's been 4 years since Rodgers was above average. Last 3 years, QBR of 26 in the NFL, out 2 years ago. And last year, a QBR of 25 in the NFL. And it's been 4 years since he threw for 300 yards in a game. What about Russell Wilson? I don't know. Maybe he is in the mix. I have not heard his name here much. Daryl from Chaska. Vikings are interested but unwilling to pay him what he wants, if you read between the lines. And again, that could very well be. To the contrary, this is 651 guy. Rodgers finished top 8 in yards and touchdowns last season. And that's playing for the Jets, LOL, with 0 offensive line and the most dropped passes in the NFL. Now, he had some weapons, but he did not have much of an offensive line. That part is true. We need Gerby's take on this Aaron Rodgers news. Somebody is nominating Jameis Winston. He is one of, I think, the still available veteran quarterbacks who might be brought in here as a backup. Another suggesting that Rodgers is well past his prime. No point in belaboring this any longer. Why did you just lay that out without any fantastical embellishments? Surely you could have concocted a better story than what actually happened. We tried to not lie to you on this program. Clayton from Rochester, Dan, PA may blow a gasket if the A-Rod rumors resurface if JJ struggles. We're all here for it. Has PA's position been anti-A-Rod? I have not heard a lot. A couple people have told me that that's been his position from the beginning. I don't know if that's true. And maybe some folks have had some fun with that. I'm not sure. Rodgers post-mortem, Dan. This one's, bear with me, this is a lengthy one. This is from Kevin. The interest in Rodgers, he writes, I believe was sincere from the Purple. The frustration wasn't that there was coverage of this. It was the steamrolling of the details that got frustrating. Gessling and Pelissero have both taken exception on KFAN Airways with some of the reporting throughout this week by some seemed aimed at the Athletic on this topic. Ben on with PA, Tom on with the morning show. True insiders, Schefter, Rappaport, Pelissero never wavered from there's some interest, but it's unlikely. Only Rossini, who is more of a conduit to players' agents than a true newsbreaker, was heavily reporting the strong interest. You say follow the story, but there wasn't much of a story for 6 or 7 days. A lot of posturing. and clickbait while reporting the same non-news over and over again. Again, that doesn't mean there was not mutual interest, but the thirst of reporters, TV, and radio personalities to will this to happen was...
Might have ran out of space.
Yeah,
there.
Maybe ran out of space. Yeah, because it kind of runs off. I get what he said. It's a well-written text. I just don't know there was that much air between what the folks he describes like Ben and Tom, and I don't know where he puts Seifert in this, and the folks that he describes as having fueled it a little bit more intensely. If you go back and read, in fact, we read from the Athletic piece, I think, that dropped Saturday, there was nothing in it that said it was likely that a deal was going to get done with Aaron Rodgers. Now, maybe they were a little bit more declarative, and I don't want to get in the middle of because you end up getting in the middle of a fight between reporters, and then, quite frankly, I don't even know how easy it is for reporters to be objective in that fight, where they're going to, whatever their position is, they're going to hold on to it and protect it on either side of that. I think all along, look, if the interest was real, and I think it was, that's a major story, especially given who it's about. Period. Full stop at the end of that sentence. Now, we can get into the permutations of, well, how serious was it, or were some people pushing it, fanning the flames more than the others. Most of the reporting I saw across the board was unlikely to happen, but the conversations are real. And I think part of what happens is, if you get pushed into saying, well, there's nothing to it, it's all made up, it's all invented, then as a reporter, you're likely then to fire back a little bit and to say, well, you're not talking to my sources, and it's it has some reality to it. Let's face it. It's because it's Aaron Rodgers. That's what elevated this story to an unusual place, maybe even an unprecedented place, because of his history, because of what a big name he has become, and what a deviation, a real curveball it would have been that the Vikings were throwing at the late date. And again, ultimately, they didn't, at least for now, if you read the very exacting language from Pelissero. But the fact that there was conversation about it, that's in of itself a pretty significant curveball, which tells you that they were intrigued enough to take it under consideration. I think it's unrealistic to expect any veteran that's left, including the old timer. Who did we talk about earlier? He was with the Ravens forever, Flacco. That Flacco's still got an arm he can throw, but I'm not sure Flacco. If you need Flacco to win like 8 games for you and to take you to the Super Bowl, I don't think that's very likely either at this point. Because he also can throw. He can also throw, for being fair, a lot of tough interceptions too. So I think whatever this team is likely to be this year, the pressure, it's going to be on J.J. McCarthy to do something that's never been done before. If you want to really think about what might be described as a Super Bowl run. All right. I guess the moral of this story is, if there's competition, there's always going to be a way to cheat. No matter whether you associate cheating with the activity or the sport or not. How many of you are aware of the Norwegian ski jumper scandal, cheating scandal? Norwegian ski jumpers. It's a great Olympic event, by the way, one of my favorite to cover in the Winter Olympics. This is the athletics version of it, and this is actually from several days ago. There's a long tradition, writes Victor Mather, of teams trying to get an edge in ski jumping. Making tweaks to equipment to try to gain a few feet in distance, or even a few inches. But a recent alteration to the crotch area of a team's ski suits went too far. Who knew? 5 Norwegian ski jumpers and 3 officials were suspended by the International Ski and Snowboard Federation this week, accused of cheating after altering the crotches of the team's ski suits. Some of the officials soon confessed to the scheme. Officials are accused of engaging in what's described as illegal equipment manipulation at the Nordic World Ski Championships in Trondheim, Norway last week. Suspensions will continue while an investigation takes place. The suspended Norwegian athletes, well, they name them. One of them, Marius Lindvik, is a gold medalist at the Beijing Olympics in 2022. Johan Andre Forfang, a gold medalist in Pyeongchang in 2018. Robin Pedersen, Christopher Eriksson Sundal, and Robert Johansson. Lindvik also won a gold medal at the World Championship days before the suspensions. Federation seized all of the ski jumping suits used by Norway at the event, and that inspection raised additional suspicions of manipulation. No irregularities, interestingly enough, were found in the women's team suits, just the men. So here's the quote from one of the suspended officials. What we have done is manipulate or modify the jumpsuits in such a way that it violates the regulations. It was a deliberate act. Therefore, it is cheating. It was a joint decision, and I should have stopped it. I think this was actually the team coach, Magnus Brevik, kind of owned up to it. So they ask in this piece the question I had, which I think most of you listening would ask too if you're not familiar with this story. How does this particular manipulation to a suit make one fly further through the air on skis? Essentially, the team added extra material to the crotch region of the suits using reinforced thread, creating an extra seam. That added more surface area, which provides more lift, which could help the skiers travel further or farther before landing. As the Norwegian press described the violation, the seams in the crotch were not elastic enough. This created a larger surface for the jumpers to fly on. A tighter sail is better than a loose sail. A tighter sail is better than a loose sail, especially in the crotch area, apparently. Investigating officials said they had to destroy the suits to find the subtle adjustment. The coach said that a hidden camera caught him and other officials making the alterations, although it was unclear who had set it up. And then here's the other big question that folks have asked. Why does a team that has such a solid reputation and record of achievement go down this road at all? This wasn't a team that was like constantly finishing 18th, not medaling individually or collectively at all. This is one of the best teams in the world in this particular sport. So why? Why take the risk? He says, I've asked myself that many times, we regret it like dogs. I'm terribly sorry. We became blind in this World Cup bubble of ours and went way over the line. So there you have it. Ski jumping scandal. Although, again, what's different about this case is, at least in the part of the coach and a couple others, the willingness to own up. Usually what do we see? Denial, and then a long investigation, and then ultimately a conclusion is reached. And either the suspensions are upheld or they are reversed, whatever the case may be, and debates break out. Was there really cheating going on here? Whatever. This case, the mystery seems to be already resolved that, yeah, we did it. I don't know why we did it. We didn't need to do it. We got caught up in, did you even know there was a ski jumping bubble? There's a world ski jumping bubble that the coach said we got caught up in, got lost in, and so it made it easier for us to do something that or otherwise you wouldn't if you weren't in the World Cup bubble. So there you have it. I know we have ski jumpers who listen to this program. I know we have skiers. We may even have some Norwegians. Tell me about this. Did you have any awareness that there could be this kind of... I guess I'm not an aerodynamics guy, so I wouldn't even begin to understand or even believe that the clothing itself was that closely monitored or could make that big of a difference. But I guess it makes some sense because there are equipment rules in pretty much every sport, right, in every activity.
I just would love to be a fly on the wall where that was the solution that was... Yeah. Because they were trying to think of something, right, to get a little extra lift I don't know how they settled on that. On that area of the body, that was the squeaky wheel that needed the grease.
Maybe
the crotch
the
area.
theory is it's the easiest place to hide the extra material to a certain extent. Maybe that depends on the anatomy. I don't know. But, yeah, that's the talk of the skiing community at this point. Further proof that when you involve human beings, there's no limit to what we are capable of. There are no depths that we are incapable of falling to in order to gain a little bit of that extra edge. And by the way, there's some text coming in that don't bother. They're probably not going to be read. Somebody's saying there's the famous Bill Belichick quote, if you're not cheating, you're not trying to win. Was that Bill Belichick? I thought that was Lieber. Didn't Lieber say that? Who said? Was he quoting Belichick?
I mean, it wouldn't shock me if.
Or was that Peter Burcich? I can't remember because that came up in some context before. I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah, don't read some of the names coming.
No, Dan, I'm a Norwegian American. Dad was on the Olympic team and U.S. ski team, full ride to Utah for ski jumping. I'm so glad we got this on KFAN. Yeah, well, I'm not going to lie to you. I loved covering esoteric sports in the Winter Olympics. That's what made it fun instead of the usual bats and balls, right? But I wouldn't class myself as a great ski jumping mind. I'm just fascinated. It's the scandal part of it, because otherwise, let's be honest, we wouldn't be talking about it. It's just, you live and you learn about, even when I read the headline, I'm going, ski jumping. What the hell? What kind of advantage can you get? And then my original thought was it had something to do with the ski itself. You know, maybe that something in the ski giving you greater lift or greater opportunity. Because I'm assuming there's rules about that too. But I'm guessing the reason they went down this road in that area again is because allegedly, it was going to be easier to get away with it. Now, what isn't clear in this story, and this is where I need help from the ski jumping community, is I'm not sure I have found anything that tells me, how did this get exposed? No pun intended. How did this get uncovered? I mean, did somebody say, it's like there's an extra seam down there. Something tells me we got to check this out. Did somebody out of good conscience come forward in the team to confess ahead of time? How do you uncover this particular kind of scandal? That's what I'm looking for via the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line. That number is 64686. Again, that's 64686. So we'll have a chance, I'm guessing, to get back to this controversy at some point as well. Let me double check one thing here on my times for my guests. I have a bad feeling that I'm right. I was worried for a second that I'd agreed to 4:00 Central Time with Posner. No, it's 4:30. So we still got 30 minutes before Gerald Posner is going to join. We'll get to a couple other controversies in the half hour leading up to that. Kessler will join as well at 5:30 today and in studio. And we do have some hope that before this program is done, we get a minute or two with a very busy Lou Ragoose regarding 2 more guilty verdicts in the Feeding Our Future case that's getting a lot of attention today. Very quick deliberations, 5 hours after, I think, several weeks of testimony. So don't go.